Okay, I do have a hair right here, which is very unfortunate. So what I'm gonna do though, we're gonna go ahead and lift this up and give that a good spray down. And then we're gonna take the rest of this out, and then I'm gonna come back to that. How's it going? My name is Brent from Encore PPF and Tint, and today we have a 2024 Toyota Crown that we're going to be installing paint protection film on. So we'll go over this install from start to finish. The only thing that's been done to this vehicle already is I did give it a bath outside and then brought it in. So let's go ahead now and get started with this install process. We're gonna go ahead and start with rubbing these, taking care of all these edges. We're gonna go over them with a 70% rubbing alcohol. So let's go ahead and get on that. All right, you guys can take a look down in the, well, I don't know if it's gonna be in the comments. I don't know how that works, but I'm gonna go ahead and put timestamps on here so you can go ahead and skip ahead to the next parts. Like if you're just here to watch the install, then just jump ahead. There's gonna be chapters. So basically I just take a 70% rubbing alcohol here and spray it onto a rag, and then we're gonna go ahead and, or it's a yellow microfiber towel really. We'll go ahead and wipe this edge down because we will be wrapping this material around underneath the hood, and so we want to make sure and get off any oil or dirt, any contamination basically under here that could cause this material to not want to stick. Okay, now I just need to put it up so I can get these corners. So we're just going to raise the hood up. I mean, you can see we're getting a decent amount of dirt out of there. It's just good to have that nice and clean so that the material has something to really stick to when we wrap it around to the back. And where does this want to go? Right there. Okay. We'll go ahead and get these corners. Okay, great. All right, so now what we need to go ahead and do is run a clay bar across all this, because I do feel that there's definitely quite a bit of contamination on top of this paint. So we need to run a clay bar across here. All right, after doing about a section about that big, I'll just take the clay bar and fold it over. Oh, much better. Okay, and we'll go ahead and fold that over again, and we'll get this little section here. So you definitely want to keep plenty of moisture on the hood when you're using the clay bar, because you don't want the clay bar sticking to the paint. It needs to be gliding across the surface really well. And just also, you want like a medium or light duty clay bar. Don't get too crazy and get one that's real heavy duty that you don't want to damage the, or it's not really that you'll damage the paint, it's just that you can kind of affect the paint a bit, like kind of like you're using sandpaper on it, right? With those heavy duty ones, that isn't something I recommend for a paint protection film install. Starting to get a little dry here. Fantastic. Well, that feels totally different now. All right, let's go ahead and get this liner off of this material so that once we clean the hood, we don't have to spend this time getting the liner off once the hood is clean on our final cleaning. That way we can just pick it up and take it right over there and get it on there as quick as possible. All right. The less time that this spends open like this to the air, the better, because we don't want anything settling down on top of the hood. All right, so let's go ahead and get a mist on here. And we'll go ahead and use our OnePass Squeegee. And get this cleaned off. All right, and then we'll give this a final mist. Give this a final mist. Now let's go ahead and get this over onto the hood. Okay. Now let's go ahead and see what we can do about getting this positioned correctly, and then we can get started with squeegeeing everything out. So this is something I don't do very often, which is use a kit from the computer, but this hood seemed plenty easy enough that we should be able to do this. And actually my wife cut this out, so I don't know exactly what happened, why we're doing this with a kit from the computer, but that's what we're doing today because it's already cut out. Normally I really like my 4-corner tack and just get things done. Let's go ahead and see where this is going to line up on the back here. So I'd say right about there is where they want us to line up. So let's go ahead and get a little tack solution in there, and then we'll tack that down. Okay, so we want to be hanging over the edge just and I mean just barely, so that we can wrap that down and it'll cover most of that edge. Okay, great. Let's go tack down this other side now, see what it looks like. Okay, great. And then let's see here, because that side was off a little bit, then this created a finger here when I turned that side up. So let's go ahead and pull this back off, and we can add some more tack in there. And then we can go ahead and squeegee this out. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and check down here now, because what we're going to do is stretch down this way. We got a couple fingers here, so we need a little bit this way, but it's more that we need to come forward with it and get rid of these fingers here. So I'm going to go ahead and put some tack all along this edge right here, from here to here, because this also has a relief cut in it, and that helps us know where this needs to line up. So we're going to go just past the edge with the factory cut edge. Right there on that edge, they want you to hang on. Okay, so let's get that into place and then squeegee that out. Okay, so right here, what I want to do with that factory relief cut is go to where, when I wrap this, that relief cut is basically just going to be right under the back side. And then here we're going to go ahead and just wrap this edge ever so slightly, so that we don't make it around to the back, but we do cover the full top. Okay, now we need to get this one. Basically same thing. Let's get you in here a little bit closer for this one. Okay, which isn't gonna leave us much for a shot on the rest of the hood. Oh well. Okay, so I'm gonna put tack in this whole thing. I'm gonna hold my hand outside of the tack area. We're gonna slide this down till it's just over the edge, and then we want this to be hanging over the edge as well, and then we'll go ahead and squeegee this part out. Okay, great. So just past the edge there, so I can see that there's like 1/8 of an inch or so, and then this is about the same amount over. So when we wrap that underneath, at no point will this V shape be on the top of the hood. Okay, so now let's go ahead and wet everything else down again. Get a nice mist on there. And then we'll go ahead and start squeegeeing this out. So today, I'm gonna go ahead and start at the back and then work my way forward. So let's see, I mean, I have a ton of slip in here, so I'm not super worried about these, but we are just gonna get rid of the air pockets. I just like to get rid of the air pockets first because they can definitely cause problems if they start to dry in there at all. If the material starts to dry in that air pocket, then when you go over it with the squeegee, what can happen is that you can leave little bits of air underneath the paint protection film. So let's just go ahead, take your arm. You'll see how much better the arm does. I know I was just using my hand for the rest of that, but the arm does such a better job. And remember, you can't pull it through the area we've already tacked down. We don't want to take any air or water through those areas because it's not obviously going to go through them. And if you do force it to go through them with like a squeegee, you are going to leave snail trails through this part that's been tacked down with the alcohol solution or tack solution. Okay, so let's go ahead, make sure we have nothing that's going to scratch the car. You can go ahead and lean over and start squeegeeing this out. Okay, so now when I get to over here, I'm gonna go ahead and work my way back from here over. And that's just because I do not want to take, I don't want to keep just coming this way and dragging any of the material or water through this area that we've already tacked down with the rubbing alcohol. Okay, and we'll just go ahead and, this stuff I'm gonna just go ahead and take out like this to the side because it doesn't, this tool isn't gonna wanna bridge that recess there very well. You'd need to switch over to like the red one would go in there, conform in there much better. So let's go ahead and take this down. And then at this point, we'll go ahead and go over away from this area that's already been tacked down with the tack solution, and then we'll go ahead and take all this stuff out. Got a couple fingers there trying to pop up here. We'll get those in just a little bit here. Okay, let's make sure we're keeping everything out of the area that's already been tacked down with the tack solution, and then let's go ahead and bring the rest of this forward. Make sure that when you're squeegeeing, you're doing good overlapping strokes, as well as when you restart your next squeegee, you want to be working up here in an area where you've already squeegeed out, because you want to make sure that you get plenty high up there enough that you're squeegeeing everything out and not leaving something behind up here. Okay, let's go ahead, take everything away from this area, and then take it over. And then at this point, we can go ahead and take it down and out the front. Okay, I don't want to get too far over because we are going to need to bring stuff from over here over towards, more towards the middle, so we stay away from that area again that we've already tacked down. So we've got quite a few fingers around this, which is kind of a bummer, but it's just kind of how it goes when you're using that factory kit. If they don't design enough stretch into it, then you know, there's nothing that you can really do with that. Okay, I do have a hair right here, which is very unfortunate. So what I'm gonna do though, is I'm gonna go ahead and lift this up. Where is that hair? Right here. So we're gonna go ahead and lift this up and give that a good spray down. And then we're going to take the rest of this out, and then I'm going to come back to that. That's a real bummer. All right, so let's see. Chances are we're going to pull all this back right here. So let's go ahead and get some of this stuff out of here, all squeegeed out. really well first. So I'm coming right down this ridge here. And we'll start in the area that's already been tacked down and work our way back up. Okay, great. And then let's see, at this point we need to come over a bit to just make sure and stay out of the area we've already tacked down. And we can go ahead and move all this stuff down. Okay, and then we will come back around and work these fingers out. But first what we need to do is get rid of this piece of hair. I've got some water that's running down right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that. Some of that excess slip that's up in here. I need to relocate my little piece of hair. Okay, so it's right there. It's actually a little bit, it's like a little black hair, which is good because it makes it very easy to see. Okay, so let's get all of this pulled back. Let's figure out where that is again. Okay, so it's right here. So I'll flip this over. Okay, I can feel it with my finger, and I think I swiped it off of there. But I know I broke it loose because I could feel it moving. So let's go ahead and blow that off of there. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and mist this all back down. Let's double check and make sure that we still have enough coverage here. We do need to stretch up just a little bit. That way we can get our coverage over that top edge again. So I'm going to put some tack in here again, and then making sure I'm not grabbing in the part that has tack underneath. I'll push this film up. We'll squeegee that out again, and then let's go ahead and get the rest of this stuff pushed out. So make sure that you're starting way down here, because you don't want to start too high and not get everything squeegeed out again. Okay, and then up here we'll start working our way down again. And what I call that is meeting in the middle, is what I call that. So we work, so just the same thing with this part. I'm coming over to the side here, and then we want to meet in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and start over here, start squeegeeing this out, and then meet in this middle area. Okay, and then I'm just going to double check for any extra water I might have left behind in there. Okay, great. Oh no, okay. So some water had come all the way, traveled all the way down to here. That's crazy. So let's go ahead and take that up and out. Wowzers. I was not getting it all. This is way further down than I anticipated having to go. I do have a lot of slip in here today. I went up to 15 milliliters of soap per gallon of water, but I didn't want to get too sticky today. So that would explain why that was able to run down here so far. Okay, now we need to go blow these edges out and then get these edges to stay stuck down. So we're going to basically just do a pre-wrap all the way around this hood. So let's get all these edges sprayed out really good. So I'm just spraying into my hand, and then that runs down into this edge. And some of this edge is really just too long. This is way too much material hanging over to wrap around to the bottom. You really don't want anything more than about 1/4 inch to put underneath there. All right, and the first thing that we need to do in these type of areas is get these edges to stick down really good before we bother with the pre-wrap. We need all these areas with these little fingers to go down. So let's do a little bit of that now, and then we'll go over to the other side and finish spraying all that down. So go ahead and squeegee this out first. You want to get out the bulk of all the tack solution. And then any of these areas we want to do a swipe and hold on if the finger starts to come back up. It's important at this point that all this stays down in the area of the hood and isn't re-popping back up. Okay, so we'll push the bulk down. Great. We'll do the same thing here, going across. Great, and we've got a couple little areas here with little tiny fingers that want to continue to pop back up. So we're just going to go right over the edge and then hold. Okay, we call that a swipe and hold. Let's go ahead and get this guy down right here and see how it keeps coming back up. So we're going to swipe and then we're going to hold on that edge. Now we shouldn't have a problem with that popping back up again. Everything's looking really good on this edge. Let's go ahead and get some tack in this edge now. Let's get this edge all sprayed out. Okay, so we want to get the bulk of that out first. Okay, so we've got a little finger popping up right here, so swipe and hold on that one. Okay, and everything else looks like it's staying down really good. All right, so what I want to do at this point is go ahead and go around and we're going to trim off a little bit of this excess, and then we're going to do a pre-wrap on this. But we need to get rid of some of this extra material because that really is just way too much hanging over the edge. So you can see I'm putting a little bit of tug on the material towards the tip of the blade and then also away from it at the same time. I'm using my finger over here to run along the edge of the hood. And that helps me keep a straighter line. You also don't need this much blade sticking out. I mean, that's pretty much a ridiculous amount. I do want a good 4 blades out though, normally during this process. I'm almost cutting this stuff in half, really. That's how much they left hanging over. And just be really careful when you get over to these parts like this, because I'm lifting the material up as I'm going across, because we obviously don't want to hit the fender. Obviously. I'm sure I didn't need to tell you that. All right, we'll go ahead. I don't know, this back looks like okay. That seems like we'll be able to work with that. Let's go ahead and get this side now. Okay, great. I did see a little bit of moisture underneath the paint protection film on the edge right here. It's just very minor amount. We're just going to go ahead and leave it because I'm going to do more damage by trying to pull it through the material than just letting it wait and sit there and dry out. I mean, obviously if it's too big of a water bubble, you need to get that stuff out now, but that's going to dry out just fine. Okay, so now we've got everything pushed down. So we can go ahead and dry this hood off and then take one more look at it. Make sure that we've got everything pushed out of it. Just basically looking for anything you couldn't live with at this point. So, you know, big piece of hair in there or big water pocket. Obviously, I was already checking for this type of stuff during the install, and that's how I found this other hair that was up here. Okay. So I'm just running the light across the hood to look for any bigger water bubbles and things like that underneath there, and everything looks really good. So now we'll go ahead, I'm just gonna spray this edge out one more time with the tack solution, and then we can go ahead and pre-wrap this and then open it up and let it sit and dry. And then later on I'll come back and wrap these edges after I get done with the fenders. Okay, so let's go ahead and pre-wrap this whole thing. So you just take the material and wrap it around to almost the bottom side of the hood. And then this is basically almost like a swipe and hold, but you're swipe and holding on the bottom of the hood, basically. And what this does is this is called a pre-wrap, and it gets the material around to the bottom and off the side. And the advantage to that is that it's gonna make the process of pushing this down and finishing that wrap around to the backside very quick and easy. And the finished edge for us at this point, right here, the finished edge is still on the top or the side, very visible. Here, that finished edge is now around to the bottom. So basically this hood, as far as visibly, is complete to the customer, if that makes sense. And I mean, I guess that doesn't really make sense, does it? Why would I say it like that? But let me go grab a ice cube for this thing. That camera's about to overheat. So basically all I'm trying to say with this is that our finished edge that the customer is going to ever see is now off of the hood. The customer's only ever gonna see this top part, right? Oh, I don't know if that makes sense really either, but I'm sorry. I'm just getting over the flu. So we get what we get today. I had the flu. I started the flu yesterday, and then today is the second day, which means I should still be probably at home, but we've got too much work to do. So anyway, this pre-wrapping this allows us to be able to get that pretty close to finished edge underneath the hood. That way when we go to wrap this tomorrow, it's just very simple. And I say tomorrow just because I'm probably gonna let this sit and dry like this overnight. After I get the fenders done, I'll get out of here. So you just want to make sure you keep good even pressure on that edge. See, so I know I tried to explain this a few times already, but I'm having a hard time finding words today. I'm literally still have the flu. So what we're doing now is instead of the finished edge for right now being up here on the top, as you can see, I can put my fingernail all the way to the top of that hood, is now it's on the bottom. So tomorrow, we just get to wrap that around, and it's just pushing it down basically on the backside. Because if somebody's to bump this, or if we don't do a really good job wrapping this around tomorrow, then you can leave air and water on this final edge that the customer's gonna be able to see. So this is a great process to get the edge wrapped around to the back. I don't know, when was the last time you guys had the flu? It's been years since I had the flu. Like, I usually do a pretty good job keeping my hands clean and then keeping my hands out of my face. Obviously I did something though. All right. Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I had the flu. And guess what? It's still as crappy as it ever was. I tried to get up and come into work yesterday. I actually drove all the way here, which was a huge mistake. I should have just stayed in bed. I'm always trying not to stay home sick. So I ended up, I drove all the way in, and then I sat here, and I was like, I can't even stand up and walk without feeling like I'm gonna, you know, I guess I'll just say it, throw up. So I went home. I was like, I gotta go home. I can't even sit up. And I almost had some issues in the car on the way home, which means it was a bad idea for me to drive in yesterday. And my drive home from the business here is a half hour, so I didn't even make it much once I got home. It's like I got up to close some curtains. That was all she wrote. And I slept the rest of the day. Good times. Okay, great. So if it does start to pop up a little bit and it doesn't stay fully attached to like underneath, that's fine. Don't worry about that. We got it off of the top and we got it mostly off the side, and that's all we're looking for. Okay, let's go ahead and get this opened up. All right, terrific. Well, we've got everything pre-wrapped, and then I went and opened the hood up. That seems to be the best way to let that sit and dry, because all that water can basically run down to those back corners and then drip off of the hood. So we'll go ahead and let this sit like this until everything's completely dried out, and then we'll go ahead and wrap that edge. I'll see you back for that. All right, so this hood is sat like this up for probably about an hour or so. We're gonna go ahead and wrap all of these edges and then call this one good. All right, so we're gonna start by getting this, probably get this back down, but most importantly these corners, because these corners, once you close the hood partially, are not really accessible because it closes tight enough to this that you can't get your finger in there. So we want to get this stuff pushed down right now. So I went ahead and heated that up, and because we left that hanging over just a tiny bit, we were able to round around that edge a little, which is great. So that gives us some good protection, and there'll never be a line on this corner that's going to fill up with wax or anything. All right, I'm going to just come underneath here, and we're going to go ahead and put some heat on this adhesive back here, because it's just easier than trying to get to the other side of this on the back side there. And then we'll go ahead and wrap this. Let's go ahead and see if we can get you a little bit better angle. We'll go ahead and wrap this under. And so normally I say it takes about 3 to 4 passes. Oh, look at that. Man, I reached over a little bit too far and kind of bunched the material up on itself over there, so I'll have to fix that when we get to the other side. I don't know if you can you see that? All right, let's just fix it right now because it's bothering me. All right, so if I look underneath here, I basically just got ahead of myself. I went too far over where I hadn't done like multiple passes on it, and so I was trying to basically roll the whole thing over at one time, and that's not gonna work. Okay, so I just pulled that back up, and then that'll be good to go down when we get around to there. Okay, put a little heat in there. We'll go ahead and wrap that corner first, then work our way away from that corner. Great. And we'll continue our way up here, just heating that material up and rounding it underneath. Terrific. Okay, and then we'll get some heat on there and get all this stuff wrapping. It's important that we get these little corners first. We want those to be fully wrapped down, and then on these edges we want them to be fully tacked down, and then we want to wrap away from them. And the reason for that is that you don't want to bunch up any extra material right here on the corners, because you're already going to have extra material usually on the corners anyway. So let's not put any more there than we already have to fight with. Okay, great. And we'll go ahead and heat this stuff up. You just don't want you don't want to try to roll it over too much on your first pass. So each pass you just do a little bit more, because if you try to take too much of it and wrap it over, it's going to just fold over on itself, and you can really crease kink the film up. Basically, you bunch it up, and that will definitely be something that you're gonna have to pull it back then and lay it back down. It's just better if you just go little by little and roll that edge over. All right, so this one again, it's kind of easier to get it from in here. Heat that adhesive up. All right, we'll want to get this corner down first. And kind of work away from that. And then we get out here, we're gonna kind of want to work back this way from that middle, since some of that was already pushed down, coming from the other side. Fantastic. Okay, and we'll just go through and kind of just do a double check, make sure everything is down and looks really good. All right, terrific. Well, that was the process of installing paint protection film on the hood of this 2024 Toyota Crown. So we went ahead, did the install, did a pre-wrap, let all those edges dry out, and then heat sealed and, not heat sealed, but heated up all those edges and wrapped them around back behind underneath the hood. And that looks fantastic. This one's all finished up and ready to go home. So I appreciate you guys taking a look at this. If you found anything useful or helpful, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.